It's almost a year since South Africans and the world woke up to the tragic and shocking news of 21 young people who died at the Enyobeni tavern in East London, in the Eastern Cape, on the 26th of June. The owners of the tavern, that's Siyatangele and Vuakazi Ndevu, are currently on trial, facing charges of selling alcohol beverages to minors and allowing them inside their establishment, contravening their liquor license conditions. Now, as pupils are writing their mid-year exams, the Eastern Cape Liquor Board has sent a warning to all liquor traders not to host what has been known as the pens down parties in their establishments, as it transgresses their trading conditions and, of course, is a criminal offence as well. But to give us an update on what has happened since that fateful early day, we are virtually joined by Khululekile, I beg your pardon, Kandana, a father who lost his son at the Enyobeni Tavern deadly event. Thank you so much for joining us and talking to us this morning.
Good morning, Leanne, and good morning to your viewers as well. So, thank you very much for having me on the program.
It's an absolute pleasure, and we thank you for joining us so we can hear your story and perhaps we can begin by taking us back to that fateful day. I mean, it was the 26th of June. It will be a year since you lost your son, Bongoletu. And this is in a very tragic way. Perhaps you want to take us back to the day when you found out what happened and what happened to your son at Enyobeni Tavern.
Well, Leanne, it was a very tragic and a very painful day to all of us, more especially the parents who lost their kids there. It was on a Sunday morning, and I was preparing to go to church when I heard about it. Then I had to stop going to church and go and see if my son is one of the kids who passed away there, because I heard that they went to that area, him and his friends, including his younger brother. So this is a wound that will never heal. Yeah. More especially the way that this is being handled by the law enforcement agencies.
Yeah, and this is the problem, because Khululekile, there is a time where you need to find answers now, and these are still missing. I mean, it's young children's lives that have been lost. The circumstances are still being spoken about and discovered. We know that the case is going on, but you have been quoted as saying that law enforcement agencies are perhaps conducting further investigations into the cause of the deaths of the children. Are you receiving any updates, any other updates after the toxicology report was released last year?
Well, on the side of the health department, there's nothing that we've got after the toxicology reports were released. And what is more worrying and what is more painful is the fact that no one has been charged yet for the death of the children. As all South African and the world know, that the case that is before the court right now is for the owner of the establishment to sell alcohol to children under the age of 18. That's the case that is before the court now. For the death of the children, no one has been charged yet.
And this is where the problem comes in, and I think the frustration as parents. I mean, you've lost children, you know, and the only hope I imagine is that this trial will shed a little bit more light on what actually happened that day. I know I was reading the latest out of the court, but I mean, that was about 2 weeks ago, where the bouncer closed the door and sprayed a substance on the kids, and they were dropping down. But you know, these are certain things that I imagine need a lot more clarity. But are you finding that the trial is helping in any way the parents, yourself, anybody, get more clarity on what actually happened that night?
Well, as for now, we haven't get any clarity as to really what happened on that fateful night. And I am also, including the parents, still looking as to what exactly happened there. As you were mentioning that in the past 2 weeks, when the witness took stand in court to say that the bouncer he sprayed something, we don't know what was it, and the fact that he closed the door and the place, it was fully packed. You can imagine a fully packed place, and then you do something like that, and then after that you close the door and leave the children inside trying to get out of the place. And there was also an alcohol involved in all that. You can imagine for yourself, what does that make us feel as the parents? What does that make me feel as a parent? I mean, closure is still far away from us to get closure until we know exactly what happened there.
You know, when we go back and we look at that toxicology that was released, and this was in, August, September of last year, and they basically said that they suffocated due to overcrowding. This was where, it came out, and this was what was said. Is this being challenged? Are you still challenging this report? I mean, did you believe this report, and did you feel that they had done enough work to reach these conclusions?
Well, Sakina, we've rejected that report from the very first moment they tell us. All the parents, they've rejected the report, and they are not doing anything from their side to clarify this more for us. But on our side, we are not letting it lie down. We are taking some steps to get more from the report as to really what happened, as we believe that on the toxicology report, not all reports we were given as to really what happened to the children on that fateful night. But we are working with organizations, we are working with people who are really eager to help us get the facts as to what happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reality, and it did seem that once that report came out, there were a lot more questions than there were answers. So, in and amongst all of this, as parents, you started a campaign requesting President Cyril Ramaphosa to order an independent inquiry into the deaths of the 21 young people. What's happened since then? Have there been any developments on that? Firstly, has the president replied to this? Has there been any interest from the government side to try and assist you, whichever department that can come to the aid of you as parents?
Well, all what we know is that the docket is with the NPA in Grahamstown, of which we are still waiting for that. But from local, provincial to national government, the last time that we spoken or we saw them was during the mass funeral, whereby they made a lot of promises that they will help us get closure. But until today, nothing came forth from their side.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the president at the time attended the funeral of the mass funeral that was held, and those were the visuals we'll never ever forget. I remember watching that and seeing coffins just being brought in, and this mass funeral taking place without actually having closure and any answers to the parents. I mean, so much was ruled out during those investigations, but the reality is that this is still an unanswered question. And I know that the owners, as we've mentioned, are in trial. They're facing charges of selling alcohol to underage children. But, I imagine that this is not good enough for you, that you are hoping that there is going to be a lot more and some other inquiry or something that can happen.
Most definitely, Eliane, this is not enough for us, for them to be only charged for selling alcohol to the underage children, whereas children died in that area. Yeah. This is a more issue for us, the death of our children. They need to investigate more on the side of the death of the children as to what happened there, so that we as parents, as much as it pains us, so that we can try and have closure, so that we can try and move forward.
Yeah.
As I've said before, this is a wound that will never heal.
No.
I mean, for parents to lose their children, it's very, very painful.
It certainly is. Khulelekile, I know at the time the parents or nobody was allowed to actually see the final report that came out. Have you ever had access to that report, the concluded toxicology report? Did you ever see it? I remember it was withheld and never made public. But as parents, did you ever get to see the details in it?
We've never had seen those reports. They are still within the authorities. And you can imagine, because before those results were announced, in our engagement with them, we were promised that each and every parent will get a copy of the results, as to say what transpired, what the results said, what the toxicology report saying. But on the day of the results, we were told that this is a confidential thing. We cannot get those from the authorities.
Yeah, it's hard to understand this situation, that this is confidential when you've lost a son. How old was your son at the time?
At the time, he was 17. He was going to turn 18 on the 9th of July, of which that was the date that we buried him on his birthday.
All right. Khulelekile, we send you love on this very difficult time, and we know the anniversary is coming up, and we certainly are hoping that you find answers. It's a story that will never go away, and we certainly will never let it go away. We need answers on this. Thank you for talking to us. Khulelekile Qangana is a father who lost his son, 17 years old, at the Enyobeni tavern deadly event almost a year ago. We are reaching out to the Eastern Cape Social Development for an update on the case, and we're hoping that they will accept our invitation to talk further.